the dashboard. Young love and an old Ford, cheap shades and a tattoo and a yoo-hoo. Bottle on the floorboard, perfect song on the radio. Sing along, cause it's one we know. It's a smile, it's a kiss, it's a sip of wine, it's summertime. Sweet summertime. Temperature says 93 down at the deposit and guarantee, but that swimming hole, it's nice and cold. Bikini bottoms underneath, but the boys' hearts still skip a beat when them girls shimmy off them old cutoffs. And it's 2 bad feet on the dashboard. Young love and an old Ford, cheap shades and a tattoo and a yoo-hoo. Bottle on the floorboard, perfect song on the radio. Sing along, cause it's one we know. It's a smile, it's a kiss, it's a sip of wine, it's summertime. Sweet summertime. The more things change, the more they stay the same. It don't matter how old you are, man, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, baby, when you got 2 bad feet on the dashboard. Young love and an old Ford, cheap shades and a tattoo and a yoo-hoo. Bottle rolling on the floorboard, perfect song on the radio. Sing along, cause it's one we know. It's a smile, it's a kiss, it's a sip of wine, it's summertime. Sweet summertime.
Sunday morning, man, she woke up fighting mad, bitching and moaning on and on about the time I had. And by Tuesday, you could say that girl was good as gone. And then when Thursday came around, I was all alone. So I went for a drive to clear my mind. Ended up at a Shell on I-65. Then I won $100 on a scratch-off ticket. Bought 2 12-packs and a tank of gas with it. She swore they were a waste of time, all, but she was wrong. I was calling number 5 on the radio station, won a 4-day, 3-night beach vacation. Deep sea senorita fishing down in Panama. And I ain't gotta see my ex-future mother-in-law anymore. Oh Lord, when it rains, it pours. Now she was sure real quick to up and apologize when she heard about my newfound luck on that FM dial. And it's crazy how lately now it just seems to come in waves. What I thought was gonna be the death of me was my saving grace. It's got me thinking that her leaving is the only logical reason that I got the last spot in the Hooters parking lot, and the waitress left her number on my check with a heart. She picked up on first ring when I gave her a call. And I only spent $5 at the Moose Club raffle. Won a used four-wheeler and 3 free passes for me and 2 of my buddies to play around the golf. And I ain't gotta see my ex-future mother-in-law anymore.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The program will begin momentarily.
I've been on one hell of a redneck road for 3 weeks now, and it all started on the day that she walked out. Then I won $100 on a scratch-off ticket, bought 2 12-packs and a tank of gas with her. She swore they were a waste of time, all, but she was wrong. And I was calling number 5 on the radio station, on a 4-day, 3-night beach vacation. Deep sea senorita fishing down in Panama. And I ain't gotta see my ex-future mother-in-law anymore. Oh Lord, when it rains it pours. When it rains it pours. Last night we let the liquor talk. I can't remember everything we said, but we said it all. You told me that you wish I was somebody you never met. But baby, something's telling me this ain't over yet. No way it was our last night. I kissed your lips, make you grip the sheets with your fingertips. Last bottle of Jack, we split a fifth. Just talking about life, going sip for sip. Yeah, you know you love to fight, and I say shit I don't mean, but I'm still gonna wake up on you and me. I know that last night we let the liquor talk. I can't remember everything we said, but we said it all. You told me that you wish I was somebody you never met. But baby, something's telling me this ain't over yet. No way it was our last night. No way it was our last night. No way it was the last night that we break up. I see your taillights in the dust. You call your mama, I call your bluff. In the middle of the night, pull it right back up. Yeah, my friends say let her go. Your friends say what the hell, I wouldn't trade your kind of love for nothing else. Oh baby, last night we let the liquor talk. I can't remember everything we said, but we said it all. You told me that you wish I was somebody you never met. But baby, something's telling me this ain't over yet. No way it was our last night. We said we had enough. I can't remember everything we said, but we said too much. I know you packed your shit and slammed the door right before you left. But baby, something's telling me this ain't over yet. No way it was our last night. No way it was our last night. I know you said this time you really weren't coming back again. But baby, something's telling me this ain't over yet. No way it was our last night. No way it was our last night. Pull me sing without her. So make them drinks strong, cause brother, she's gone. And if I'm ever gonna move on, I'ma need some whiskey glasses, cause I don't wanna see the truth. She's probably making out on the couch right now with someone new. Yeah, I'ma need some whiskey glasses if I'm gonna make it through. If I'ma be single, I'ma need a double shot of that heartbreak proof and see the world through whiskey glasses. Sip around the truth, see the world through whiskey glasses. I need a better view, or I don't drink it. Last call, I swear this'll be my last call. I ain't drunk, darling, no more at 3 a.m. Mr. Bartender hit me again. Don't wanna think about her or wear a ring without her. Don't wanna hit the karaoke bar, can't sing without her. So make them drinks strong, cause brother, she's gone. And if I'm ever gonna move on, I'ma need some whiskey glasses, cause I don't wanna see the truth. She's probably making out on the couch right now with someone new. Yeah, I'ma need some whiskey glasses if I'm gonna make it through. If I'ma be single, I'ma need a double shot of that heartbreak proof and see the world through whiskey glasses. Sip around the phone, see the world through whiskey glasses. I need a better, line 'em up, line 'em up, line 'em up, line 'em up. Knock 'em back, knock 'em back, knock 'em back, knock 'em back. Fill 'em up, fill 'em up, fill 'em up, fill 'em up. Cause if she ain't ever coming back, line 'em up, line 'em up, line 'em up, line 'em up. Knock 'em back, knock 'em back, knock 'em back, knock 'em back. Fill 'em up, fill 'em up, fill 'em up, fill 'em up. Cause if she ain't ever coming back, I'ma need some whiskey glasses, cause I don't wanna see the truth. She's probably making out on the couch right now with someone new. Yeah, I'ma need some whiskey glasses if I'm gonna make it through. If I'ma be single, I'ma need a double shot of that heartbreak proof and see the world through whiskey glasses. Sip around the phone, see the world through whiskey glasses. I need a better, ain't nothing else to do. Sip around the truth, see the world through whiskey glasses. I need a better, or I don't drink it. Yeah, I've been throwing down the whiskey. I ought to get my money back. Someone said it drowns a memory. Oh, but it ain't doing jack. Yeah, I've been sipping, I've been buzzing, shooting doubles like it's nothing. All but nothing makes you go away. I need something you prove, something stronger than I'm used to. Yeah, I've been pulling 92 hard and feel like nothing's gonna cut it. That's the hard truth. Yeah, I need something you prove. Oh, I need something you prove. Put 'em up to shutting 'em down, yeah. You never ain't out around, yeah. Don't matter what time, what town, I can't get you gone. Turn the bar, yeah, upside down. Just looking for something that does it. I give 'em all my money, ain't nobody selling nothing. You prove something stronger than I'm used to. Yeah, I've been pulling 92 hard and feel like nothing's gonna cut it. That's the hard truth. Yeah, I need something you prove. Oh, I need something you prove. 'cause I've been working hard to fade your memory, baby, but the only thing faded is me. I need something you prove, something stronger than I'm used to. Yeah, I've been pulling 92 hard to feel like nothing's gonna cut it. That's a hard truth. I need something you prove. Oh, I need something you prove. Mixtapes got a little Hank, little Drake, a little something bumping, thumping on the wheel, right? The mixing our drinks a little stronger than you think, so get a grip, take a sip of that feel, right? Trucks jacked up, flat bills, flip back. Yeah, you can find us where the party's at. This is how we roll. We hanging around, singing out everything on the radio. We light it up with our hands up. This is how we roll. This is how we do. We burning down the night, shooting bullets at the moon, baby. This is how we roll. Yeah, baby, this is how we roll. We rolling into town with nothing else to do. We take another lap around. Yeah, holla at your boy if you need a ride. If you roll with me, yeah, you know we rolling high. Up on them 37 needles, windows tinted, hard to see though. How fresh my baby is in a shotgun seat though. Them kisses off of me though, automatic like a freak though. This life I live, it might not be for you, but it's for me though. Let's roll. This is how we roll. We hanging around, singing out everything on the radio. We light it up with our hands up. This is how we roll. This is how we do. When the world turns ugly, I just turn and look at you, baby. This is how we roll. Yeah, we're probably young. We stick to our guns. We love who we love and we wanna have fun. Yeah, we cuss on them Mondays and pray on them Sundays. Pass it around and we dream about one day. 'Cause this is how we roll. We hanging around, singing down everything on the radio. Get your hands up. We light it up with our hands up. This is how we roll. This is how we ride. We're strangling up the mud, cutting through the countryside, baby. This is how we roll. Yeah, this is how we roll. This is how we roll. Yeah, this is how we roll. This is how we do. We burning down the night, shooting bullets at the moon, baby. This is how we roll. Yeah, this is how we roll. Say you're going out late, I count down till you call me. It's just one of those things that you do when you're lonely, and you're all about the chase, but you won't ever let me catch you. And I wish I was the same, but I I know I'm gonna let you in again, and when I do, it's gonna hurt like hell, and you don't mean to. That's what I tell myself, but why you gotta be so heartless? I know you think it's heartless. You're tearing me apart, and girl, the hardest part is you're so high on attention, taking my from inches. Leave me in the darkness, never finish what we started. Girl, why you gotta be so heartless? Why you gotta be so heartless? Monday night was definitely not a night. Tuesday night was just another fight. Wednesday I thought everything would change. Thursday came and it was still the same. Friday night we went out on the town. Saturday we should've burned it down. Sunday morning came and now you're gone. I should probably know this shit by now. Oh, I should probably know this shit by now, but no, no. Why you gotta be so heartless? I know you think it's heartless. You're tearing me apart, and girl, the hardest part is you're so high on attention, taking my inches. Leave me in the darkness, never finish what we started. Girl, why you gotta be so heartless? Why you gotta be so heartless? Girl, why you gotta be so in between loving me and leaving? Oh, I should probably know this shit by now, but no, no. Why you gotta be so heartless? I know you think it's heartless.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Livingston County Sheriff Mike Murphy, Angel Mom of Rachel Morin, Patty Morin, Congressman John James, President of the Police Officers Association of Michigan, Jim Tiganelli, and Senior Tribal Advisor on Indian Affairs, David Flute. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage United States Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem.
Uncle Sam put your name at the top of his list, and the Statue of Liberty started shaking her fist, and an eagle will fly, and it's gonna be here when you hear Mother Freedom start ringing her bell, and it'll feel like the whole wide world is raining down on you. Oh, brought to you courtesy of the red, white, and blue.
Well, thank you all for coming on this wonderful Michigan Day. And Madam Secretary, thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule for what I believe is the most important and coolest state in the entire union, Michigan. And yes,
It's
round
pretty
of applause.
fantastic.
But as great as Michigan is, we are at the forefront. We are the epicenter of the northern border crisis. We are a Great Lakes state, and we share a lot of great things in common with our Canadian neighbors. 40% of our state population either has ancestry or family in Canada. Canada and United States trade represents about $1.2 trillion in trade every single year, and approximately 70 billion of it goes right through Michigan. As far as jobs are concerned, we rely on each other for 8 million jobs, and 230,000 of those are in Michigan. But sadly, we need closer ties and more seriousness from our Canadian neighbors with regard to border security. Many of you may have seen a 60 Minutes episode interview a number of months ago where a cartel member was interviewed about human trafficking and drug trafficking and across our northern border. And he stated explicitly that he himself brings over 30 kilos of fentanyl per month by himself. Now, our largest land border in the entire world is our northern border. And if this man can bring in 30 kilos by himself, exactly what that means is a lethal dose of fentanyl is 5 to 7 grains of salt. That's 0.42 milligrams. Him bringing in 30 kilos is enough to kill up to 90,000 Americans. That's one person in 1 month. That's serious. That's a crisis. And the people up here that you see here today are a part of solving the crisis. And in one case, Ms. Morin's case, the consequences if we fail. We have a vital opportunity to secure our border, and no one is doing a better job than President Donald J. Trump. Yes. President Trump set out to secure our border, and just by including every means available, tariffs, to negotiate, resulted in getting Mexico to surge 10,000 troops up to our southern border at their own expense. And now border apprehensions on the southern border have plummeted. So President Trump kept his promise. He secured our southern border and got Mexico to pay for it. Now next, we need to secure our northern border. And we need a less than laissez-faire approach from our Canadian neighbors. We need them to take our border security as seriously as they want us to take their sovereignty. We need to use every tool at our disposal, and President Trump is using that. It is absolutely appropriate to use tariffs as a negotiation because the USMCA, the U.S.-Mexico-Canadian agreement, needs to be more than just economic, but it needs to be the security of our nation. The first line of defense for our nation is not our border, it's the last. And we need our very good friends and partners in Canada to take this as seriously as we do. Someone who takes this extremely seriously is our secretary. I'm not going to say, it would be reductive to say that you are the most successful woman in politics. A business leader. A business leader, a rancher, a former representative in Congress, and a governor. This woman leads through crises like no one else. Certainly we could have used somebody who champions the Second Amendment, someone who champions women's sports and girls' sports, but someone who won the Governor's Cup twice because of the economic impact that she made in South Dakota. This is a leader, and now she is the secretary leading our Homeland Security, and we are so pleased to have her here today. So, Madam Secretary, among your many accomplishments, I know that you are a mother, and if you can believe it, a grandmother. And I understand that this is probably what animates your service to this nation. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here, for replying to our pleas to come, to take our northern border seriously, and it's our honor to partner with you to help make sure that we secure our border and make America great again. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, it's my honor and pleasure to be here, and thank you. I'm going to take you everywhere with me now to introduce me at everything I go to. But I've had a fantastic day up here in Michigan and spending time with a lot of the different components under the Department of Homeland Security that work to secure our northern border, but also to address a lot of the biggest challenges that we are dealing with right now. And we're dealing with it as a failure of the Biden administration and how tragically they destroyed the security of the families that live in this country. And we aren't just seeing it at the southern border, we're seeing it in every single state. And I said it 1,000 times if I said it once, that every state became a border state because of what they allowed to come into this country. And we have to, and families like this dear family have had to deal with the consequences of what they did. And thank God for President Trump. Thank God for President Trump that came in as a strong leader. So. And I would also say, you know, thank you to consistent voices and champions and people who put policy into place and never stopped the fight in Congress like Congressman James. I mean, every day continuing to message why we needed a change in the White House and why we needed someone to lead this country like him was extremely powerful. Extremely powerful for him to continue to lead and to be bold on behalf of the people that live here in this state. I want to thank Building America's Future for hosting this event, for talking about the importance of having this conversation. You know, you all know that President Trump, when he campaigned for office for his second term, he talked about the fact that immigration and the border crisis was his #1 priority, and that he knew that if we weren't a country of rule of law, if we did not enforce our borders, then we were no nation at all. And he talked about it all the time, and people overwhelmingly supported him because he recognized that no one in this country should be treated better than anyone else. that citizens should be treated less than people who were here illegally committing criminal acts against them and their families, and that we were going to once again be a country that was back on its foundation, the foundation that our creators gave us. As the greatest experiment in humankind was this nation of a constitution built on freedom and liberty, but it also was built on law, and that it would be upheld and applied equally, and the scales of justice would be applied equally. So that is exactly what he did. And in fact, you know, my background was not to be in politics at all. My dream was to farm and ranch with my dad, who was a cowboy. So he was tough, and I loved him, and he was my best friend, and I thought I'd spend the rest of my life running our businesses and our ranch and farm with him until he died in an accident when I was in college, and that's when I ended up getting involved in government and politics, because we had the federal government telling us we owed them taxes because my dad died. So I just started showing up at meetings, and my life changed. And I will tell you, this is what I want all of you who are here today to recognize, is that showing up matters. Showing up matters. There may be something that you learn here today that you're able to go out and tell 5 other people or 10 other people that completely changes their perspective on this nation or on our president or what he's doing or why he's doing what he's doing. And so I would ask that as we have this conversation, that you be thinking about not only what you can learn here today, but also what you can leave here today, going out and talking to people that are across this country that really need to understand why we're working so hard in this country to make sure that we have safety and security and a strong economy, and why we need the homeland to be the place where the American dream can still continue, it can still happen. So I'm excited about the folks that will be sharing with us today. A couple of things, when the president asked me, you know, after he won the election, Kristi, what would you like to do? I know that people have suggested you to be the Secretary of Agriculture or the Secretary of Interior. You know, what position would you most be interested in? And I said, sir, I would like to be your Secretary of Homeland Security. And he said, really? Why? You know, he said that's a really hard job, and it's a mess because this Mayorkas guy screwed it all up. And, you know, I said, sir, because it's your #1 priority. And I want to work on your #1 priority because I think you're going to have somebody who's actually tough enough to do it, but also can go out there and talk to the American people about why it's important, and someone who's a wife and a mother and a grandmother that recognizes that there are families out there that are suffering, that need this fixed, but also that as we go through making sure that we're cleaning up a lot of the criminals and the bad actors in our country and getting the drugs and the human trafficking gone, that can communicate that in a way that shows that we're preparing a better country for our kids and for our grandkids. And he entrusted me with it, and I get up every day hoping I'm doing it fast enough for him, been fast enough for families like the Morin family that just has so suffered. And here, as people have talked, and I've visited with people across the country, they've talked about the fact that they see so many resources going to the southern border, they get concerned that we're forgetting about the northern border. And I will assure you that that is not happening under this administration. That while we have ensured that the different responsibilities that I have under Homeland Security are deployed and that the border is secure, in fact, we have broken the record for the lowest illegal alien encounters at the southern border for 2 months in a row in the history of the nation. We've deployed more resources there. We've got Border Patrol there, ICE there. We've also got lots of federal partners, ATF, DEA, the FBI. They're all helping us with that. The military, National Guard folks as well. The Coast Guard, we repositioned the fleet. Most people don't know that the Department of Homeland Security has a responsibility for the Coast Guard. And so we have repositioned the fleet as well, but we did all of that without pulling any resources from the northern border. In fact, we've strengthened our security here as well, recognizing that we're only as safe as our most vulnerable section of our border. And our border isn't just on land, that it also is in our maritime borders. And that we need to be ensuring that as we seal and secure areas where criminals may want to cross, they will find new areas to where they will traffic and where they will bring in the drugs that are killing our children. In fact, under the last 3 years of the Biden administration, we saw over 1,000% increase in illegal encounters at the northern border under those last 3 years of the Biden administration just because of the open borders policy that they embraced. In fact, we saw so many Chinese nationals crossing up here. We've seen so many people from other countries that weren't necessarily the typical Central Americans that you hear about, talked about on the news so often. And we saw now, since we have secured the southern border, the TDA, the MS-13, the cartels bringing their drugs and coming across this northern border as well. And so it's very important for folks to realize that as we're encountering them, that we're not letting down our guard here at the northern border as well, and that we're strengthening not just what we do at our ports of entry to scan shipping containers, trucks, cars, passengers, people and pedestrians that may cross, but also what we're doing out on the waters and on your Great Lakes, and what we're doing to make sure that we're stopping and doing interdictions going forward. The one thing I will tell you is that the former Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, was a train wreck. He was a train wreck, and he was hard to work with for. I worked with him previously and in trying to build relationships with Canada so that we knew who was crossing our border, asking them to take back their citizens that were illegal here in this country. He was very hard to work with. He talked to President Trump about setting up a fentanyl czar so we could deal with the drug issue, but wasn't willing to share criminal background information on individuals with us, wasn't willing to allow us access to some of their data systems that would tell us really who was trafficking a lot of the drugs, the cocaine, the fentanyl that was killing our children. And we are really hopeful that this new leader, Prime Minister Carney, will be a different individual who will work closely with the Trump administration to give us the security and the information and the partnerships that we need. We need every country has a responsibility to take back their citizens. Every country has a responsibility to take back the people that are their citizens that are in our country illegally. But they also should want to work with us on vetting who is coming into our countries and who is crossing our borders. When we do trade and when we do data information sharing, we become closer in relationships, and that's what we're hoping we get to see. You saw President Trump be pretty strong on Canada lately. I was thankful that he did that. I was thankful he did that because it really brought them to the table in making sure that they weren't just out there talking about this great relationship and not really participating with us. Now we have the opportunity for a better partnership going forward. The one thing I do want to talk about today that I hope we get the chance to, and then I'm going to pass it on to the congressmen so our other panelists can talk, is this big, beautiful bill the president keeps talking about. It is incredibly important. I will tell you that we have a 500% increase in violence against our law enforcement officers in this country right now. We knew that it was going to be tough to get cartels and terrorists out of our country, and President Trump has already removed thousands of them. But as we do this operation, they're not going to go without a fight. And I will tell you, I've got many on my staff that get death threats every single day. I will tell you the ICE officers that are out there, the CBP officers, as they work with sheriffs, other folks in other states, highway patrol officers, they're receiving more death threats and aggression. You've seen on the news some of the riots and violence. A lot of this is professionalized, funded by socialists, by communists, by dangerous criminals, to create this kind of disturbance in our cities to try to scare us off from really bringing public safety. And we will not. We will stand strong. But I will tell you, this big, beautiful bill that's coming, that President Trump keeps calling a big, beautiful bill and wants us all to call it a big, beautiful bill, it is extremely important to fund the operation that we need to get these criminals out of our country. We need to be able to have the resources for our law enforcement to have backup, to build the infrastructure at the wall that we need, to be able to go out there and have the officers that we need to do the work that needs to be done to restore law and order. So as you're talking to your senators, please implore to them about the fact that these resources are incredibly important to fix the damage that was done by the Biden administration to make our communities safe again. I'm so looking forward to the discussion and the conversation, and I may jump in and ask a few questions once in a while too. And I just want to thank you for bringing the beautiful young lady in the front row. I'm so excited to see you here. What is your name? Annabeth, nice to see you. Thank you for coming. Annabeth is here. And are you the youngest one here? How old are you? You're 10? That's fantastic. I think I want to be your best friend, so I want to meet you afterwards, okay? Okay, good. All right. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Congressman, and we can continue.
Well, we all know that Annabeth is among the most patriotic in Livingston County, and that has been proven. Another person who's patriotic in Livingston County is Sheriff Mike Murphy. Sheriff Mike Murphy is a true leader. Sheriff Mike Murphy is a true leader because he cares about the community around him, and he has a passion for service. Longtime law enforcement officer, 3 decades of service in Livingston County, and he's looking to expand that service, running for Michigan Senate 22nd District. And would love to piggyback on what the Secretary was mentioning. There are 84% of terrorists on the FBI watch list are apprehended on our northern border. Sheriff Murphy, you know inherently that the border crisis isn't just for the border counties, but also inland in the state of Michigan. Can you share with us some of the key things that you've seen, some of the gaps in coverage that you have, and maybe some recommendations on how we can fix this?
Yeah, so thank you. Welcome to, I'm very happy to be here. And I just want to mention, you mentioned that there's no such thing as a border state, right? We're all border states. And I'm happy to speak on behalf of all law enforcement because there's not any place in the United States that has not been affected by an unsecure border. It's just that simple. You can talk to any police agency, you can talk to any sheriff's office, and we've all been affected in one way or another. So for those of you that don't know Livingston County, we're a relatively small county, 200,000 people, pretty affluent county, kind of a bedroom community. So you would expect that, that doesn't happen here. I just want to give you run through a couple statistics here real quick. So in the last 5 years, we've averaged between 80 and 100 overdoses, with 15 to 25, depending on the year, being fatalities. In the last 18 months, we've had an illegal that was convicted of criminal sexual conduct first degree. We had one that was driving with no driver's license, driving erratically, and sent a pregnant woman who was receiving chemo treatment to the hospital with critical injuries. The number of organized crime due to identification theft and credit card theft is through the roof. We just this past week seized, in partnership with our Fed folks, 150 kilos of cocaine at the Canadian border. And then just this morning, or just last night, 3 teens from the Congo went on a little crime spree, stole a car, and we ended up chasing them down. 15 years old, 2 of them were already on a tether. So I say that to say this: nobody's immune. Again, and it's as a direct result of the borders being unsecure. So, to your point, the bad guys are kind of like water, right? They find the path of least resistance. And we heard for a number of years from our sheriffs on the southern border crying for help because it was open. And frankly, we thought we were a little bit immune to that, so us sheriffs up here, shame on us, we didn't pay that much attention, and then all of a sudden here we are. So the amount of stuff that's coming in, illegals and other stuff, from the northern border is just going to continue until we tighten things up there a little bit. So I know we got a busy schedule. I'll yield the floor. So,
I spent a little time today looking at your ports of entry and talking with some of the folks there just about the fact that they're seeing so many more DDA members, MS-13 members crossing now here at the northern ports of entry and coming across the northern border because the southern border is closed. They're stopping them because they're there and they still have the resources to. But the amount of drugs and the illegals and the criminals that are trying to come into this country still that you guys are able to stop is remarkable. And that's the fact, is that we're not just fighting the fact that you're dealing every day on your streets with the crimes that they're committing, but also then we're fighting liberal judges who are trying to tie our hands from being able to actually get them out of this country or prosecute them and make sure that they face consequences for their crimes. So what you've done has been absolutely amazing and fantastic in protecting your community. And thank you for being an example that we can point to of what a sheriff can do with the strong will to make sure that he's always putting his people first. It's been amazing.
The Secretary is absolutely right. When you look at this, it's not just the folks from Central and South America whom you would expect. These are people from all over the world, from China, from Congo, from Senegal, from all reaches of the planet. And this is very important to note, specifically why we're here. These individuals didn't swim across the Pacific or the Atlantic. They didn't walk across the North Pole past polar bears and Santa Claus. These people came into Canadian ports of entry, were rubber stamped through those ports of entry, many times with criminal records that they had access to and still were allowed to come in. They were still allowed to come in with the ultimate destination of coming to the United States. Now, the United States welcomes 1 million people legally. President Trump, Secretary Noem, legal immigration, fine. The president has said it recently. But what we are talking about are people who do it illegally. People whom, sadly, Ms. Morin knows far too intimately and far too well. Ms. Patty Morin is an angel mom who lost her daughter to a vicious animal who, I don't want to steal your thunder, ma'am, but she has a very vital story for everyone to hear. These are things that are happening right in our neighborhoods. And President Trump is keeping his promise to make America safe again because he's listening to people like Ms. Morin. Ms. Morin, please.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to tell this Rachel's story. Rachel was a 37-year-old mother to 5 children. She went out for a walk. She was brutally attacked by an illegal immigrant. He grabbed her from the back of her head, bashed the back of her head, and dragged her 150 feet. So there's 150 feet of blood to the culvert, a tunnel where he took and he violently raped her. Her 3/4 of her head was smashed in. 3/4 of her brain was hemorrhaged. He threw her up against the wall and raped her as blood was gushing out of her head. So he went down and you could see the shape of her body outlined in her blood. These are the kind of illegal criminals that President Trump wants to get out of our country. This man, he fled his country, El Salvador, because he was accused of murdering a woman there. He made his way as a getaway through Texas, came into our country, went to Los Angeles, assaulted a 9-year-old girl and her mom before making his way from the West Coast all the way to the East Coast to Maryland to that day where he killed my daughter. These criminals that are coming over have access to the whole country. It's not that we think that, because it's, a couple 100 miles from the border, that the other states or the other cities and towns are safe. We're 1,800 miles from the border. And he made his way into our tiny town and murdered my daughter. This is the kind of criminal President Trump wants out of our country. And I am so grateful. I've met with President Trump several times, and I can honestly say that he's heard the cry of a mother and that he genuinely cares. And the reason why I tell you the violence, and I'm trying to put a picture in your mind, is because these are not just the rapes or the murders that you see on TV. And you become so desensitized to the crime. These are violent animals that attack women and children. And not all the illegal immigrants that have come over are criminal like this, but there is a good majority that is, and they need to be removed from our country. And so I am so grateful to President Trump and for the things that he has done to close the southern border. But what a lot of people don't realize is that I lived in northern New England for over 25 years. And so I'm familiar with the northern border, that part of the country. And I was there just a month ago, and I am surprised and amazed at the amount of immigrants that have come in that are from the Congo, from Sudan, from the Middle East. It is like unheard of compared to just a couple of years ago. We have the world that has come into our country, and they have come here to weaken our country, and they have come here to cause chaos. They're not here for our benefit. And again, we're not against immigration if it's done legally, but having open borders and not vetting the people that are coming in, it's not rocket science to know that bad actors are going to come in also. And we need to protect our families. And so with that, I'm just wondering, because we need to protect and to close our northern borders, what can be done to safeguard our borders, all of them, but then also to make sure that they don't come back into our country? Because this Godaway tried 3 times to come into the country before he was a Godaway coming through. So, thank you.
And that's the biggest concern, is that people, you know, want to know what we can do to make sure this doesn't keep happening. And once we deport someone that is a criminal, that they don't come right back or come right back into our country, and then we're looking for them again. President Trump has been extremely aggressive since the very beginning in working with other countries and negotiating with them. And I think Marco Rubio has done a fantastic job as a Secretary of State. He's just done an amazing job. You know, in order for us to deport someone, we not only have to go find them, and especially these criminals, you know, go find them, then go through their due process hearings, and not even that, their paperwork, get in front of judges, get them prosecuted, then talk about travel papers and get that arranged with the other country, and then have them face consequences there as well, because we don't necessarily want to turn a violent criminal like that back over to their country and have them be turned loose. So that has been a key part of our negotiations with all of these other countries, is what will happen to them when they return there, and how will we keep track of them to know that they're staying there and not coming back to our country. Yeah. And then the security and the upgrades we need in technology at our border is incredible. You know, even in the first Trump administration, we had the opportunity to build about 800 miles of wall. We built the infrastructure, but we didn't get the chance to install the technology that really does complete the entire system. We need the technology that has the surveillance equipment, the sensors that tell us when someone is getting close, so we can deploy people and officers that would be there. That still needs to be completed. And I've talked with many of our elected officials that serve on the northern border. And one of the senators from New Hampshire said to me, she said, frankly, in New Hampshire, where our border is, she said there's flower pots is what we've got for security. You know, we don't have, you know, while we tighten up what we have in other areas of the country, they're going to be crossing through other states into other states where there has been nothing before, but they're finding new ways to get into this country. So it's not just dealing with what we know were our vulnerable areas before, but the entire border, and making sure that we're building those relationships with other countries to have their information and their data to ensure that they don't get back into this country. President Trump has removed over 280 known terrorists that were on our terrorist watch list. Known terrorists. And those are people from the Middle East. They're people from China, from Iran, from all over the country, Central America. The reason I so appreciate Patty is I can't even imagine the kind of bravery it takes to tell the story of what happened to her daughter. I can't imagine what that's like. But I also can point back to times in my life where people told me a story and it changed me forever. So we can sit up here and quote all the statistics in the world, right? And tell you, well, we have, 3,000 people in Michigan that die every single year from fentanyl. And you can talk about that, but when you hear a story like that, it just changes your life forever. Because you can't even imagine what kind of an animal would do something like that. And the unfortunate thing with my job is I hear those stories every day. I hear them in fact, yesterday they handed me these sheets. Every day I get sheets of the bad people that we've arrested that day across the country. And so every day, this is just a few of them that I have. In fact, I didn't even remember to take them out. They're not even supposed to be up here with me. But this gentleman was from Guatemala, 32-year-old, He got aggravated assault on police officers in Colorado. He's been threatening them, threatening their lives, and tried to murder one of them. This individual out of Guatemala has a conviction for felony rape of a victim under 17 years old. And this is who lawyers are right now fighting to keep him loose and to let him go free into our country. This individual attacked, robbed, and beat up and victimized a senior citizen over 65 years old, a disabled senior citizen, and went after him. This individual had 4 counts of rape of a child under 16 years old, 2 counts of statutory rape of a child, was released again by the Biden administration, 2 counts of indecent assault and battery on a child under 14 years old, 4 counts of exhibiting nude children and possession of child pornography. This individual's from Brazil, 12 different sexual offenses, and was still running loose on our streets, and in a state where that governor and that local leadership did not want to give us the opportunity to go out and get this individual off the streets. And we went and did it anyways without their help and without their backup, because it was important to keep people safe. But just know that this is the work that President Trump, he heard Patty's story and heard her talk about Rachel, and it changed him forever. And he gives us the opportunity to spend time with these angel families and angel moms, and we are changed forever. And that's why we get up every day and do what we do, is because we don't ever, I hope someday they come to me and they say, guess what? I don't have any pictures or people that, because we don't have any more in this country, that these people are gone and they're not here anymore, and our streets are safe again. But with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Well, Patty, thank you so much for your love, your courage, your bravery, and your strength. I have 3 little boys, 11, 10, and 6, and I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. And I think anybody who has children in this room, regardless of how old they are, when you heard that story, you thought about your child. Well, for every Rachel, there are 1,000 more. For every Michael Filippelli, who died at 17 of a fentanyl overdose, there are thousands more. And we have this legacy of telling the truth and parents making the hard stories, just like Mamie Till Mobley, who in the wake of her son's lynching said, I want them to see my baby. She knew that America needed to see that story in order for that to resonate so other lives can be saved. Patty, thank you again. You are saving lives through your pain. Mr. David Flute, also somebody who understands we need to do every single thing it takes. President Trump is doing everything it takes, and most notably, Secretary Noem nailed it. Passing the One Big Beautiful Bill is a great, biggest step in the right direction to secure our borders, to build the wall, to get the comms and tech and training that we need to secure our southern and northern border, and we're working hard. Already passed it through the House. So again, talk to your senators to make sure that we prioritize so we don't have any more Rachel Morrins. The Secretary also mentioned that we are correct in tying every single thing we can, economics to security, because as the Secretary mentioned, in order to make sure these people don't return, we need the buy-in of these people to keep those their own citizens when we send them back. And President Trump, using the leverage that we have to negotiate in good faith so that we have partners and not dependents, is absolutely correct. We need to close these loopholes. And among the most gaping loopholes are tribal lands that are being exploited by traffickers. And Senior Tribal Advisor on Indian Affairs at the Department of Homeland Security, Mr. David Flute, is here because he understands what the gaps what the loopholes are, and he's dedicated to respectfully and decisively closing them. Mr. Flute, thank you for your time and for your service.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you, Congressman, for hosting me here in your great state, and thank you to all the Michigan people here for having me. As an American Indian that loves this country and has served this country, I want to recognize our veterans that are in this audience too that have served. I see your brother here with the Iraq hat, and I've seen a couple other here. So, brother, thank you for your service. Right on. I also want to thank Secretary Noem for lassoing me in from South Dakota to come here and work for her. You know, I've worked with her when I was a tribal chairman for the Sisseton-Wahpeton Sioux tribe, and she was a member of Congress. And if you ask the secretary, what did Chairman Flute come to you with? It was always public safety. So I know her heart has always been with public safety, and especially in Indian country. You know, there's probably 40 or 50 tribes that extend from the northwest to the very northwest part of this country to the northeast of this 5,000 miles plus of the northern border. And one of the stories that, you know, when I hear Patty's story, and I got to meet her, I'm a strong believer in God, I'm very spiritual, and she had a connection to our Sioux people at home that I'm going to visit with her after this, and just fascinating to meet her and to hear her story. But them stories also happen in Indian country, what the secretary had pointed out. These people that she is going after, there's been murders of young Indian people in Indian country. I hear the story of President Stiffarm from the Fort Belknap Indian Reservation in Montana. The cartel, as much as I don't like to say it, their sophistication and their understanding of the lack of law enforcement in Indian country, they attack our tribal officials. He testified before Congress that cartel threatened him and other tribal leaders. If they came before Congress, they would kill them. And so when a tribal chairman is living in Indian country with the vast lands of Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, other states along this border, or that are close to this border, and they're getting threats like this from cartel because they know, again, I don't like to say this, but they come in and they bully our tribal leaders. And as the secretary said, we could talk about the problems all day, and if I could, Madam Secretary, there's one thing that I've really picked up from her, working for her when she was our governor, what her dad had shared with her. It's kind of along the same things my dad had shared with me. We don't just talk about the problems, Kristi. We go out and we fix them. And it's something my father had shared with me. If you see something that needs to be done, go do it. And so I'm ready here. I don't care who's listening. I'm ready here to try to kick some ass and make some things happen here with the Department of Homeland Security. So, but you know, the authority with jurisdiction mostly lies with the tribes. They are a quasi-sovereign nation, meaning they're a nation within a nation, but they have the ability and the authority to make laws to enforce upon their people. They have the ability to enter into partnerships with our state and local law enforcement. And that's where tribal leadership really needs to stand up. They need to not just wave the paper in the air and say they're a treaty tribe or that they're sovereign. They need to exercise that sovereignty and enter into partnerships and agreements. So I'm very encouraged to hear of the great work the sheriff and the gentleman here to my right that are working on those things. And I really hope to build on that. It's something the secretary has certainly hammered home, not just in our state, but across this country. And that's something I'm trying to do for her and for the president as well, too. And if you want to make a difference, then make a difference, you know, and that's what I'm here to do. That's what I'm here to try to do. And again, just putting it in every day. Again, those issues in Indian country, those open borders, those cartel know that tribes lack the law enforcement, the real boots on ground out there to really police those borders. And so if tribes would partner, one of the solutions is partnering with the federal government, partnering with the state government. And I don't want to be, you know, like President Reagan said, I'm here from the federal government, I'm here to help or something like that. That's not what we're here to do. Tribes need to exercise fully their sovereignty and set up the politics aside and just enter into these agreements with state, local law enforcement. It's something I firmly believe in, the secretary firmly believes in. And just lastly, you know, there's just to give some numbers here real quick, you know, in North Dakota, Spirit Lake, meth trafficking, Washington, the Lumi, Makah, the Colville tribes, trafficking, human trafficking, drug smuggling, Minnesota, Wisconsin, the list goes on. And I'm not going to sit up here and give the stats, as the secretary said, or just talk about the problem. So just some real quick things about DHS, if I could, Madam Secretary, quick. You know, we've got to partner with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. You know, we really do. And I think the last administration just really screwed some things up. You know, tribes sued Secretary Holland. They sued President Biden. And so that kind of goes to show you the radical behavior they can be. They really don't care what party you are. They just want to get something done. And so we're trying to work with our HSI colleagues in Homeland Security, HSI, ICE, and try to partner up with the mobile enforcement teams and BIA to really go out there and, you know, as I said, to kick some ass out there. So thank you for having me.
Let me tell you a little bit about Dave that he didn't share with you. I was so impressed with him when I got elected. In South Dakota, we only have one congressman because we're a big state, but not that many people. And as the congresswoman from South Dakota elected, I had 9 tribes that I would work with, 9 different tribal leaders and chairmen or presidents that would come in and visit with me about their needs. And they would come in with a plethora of things, and I would look at the fact that they had gotten millions of dollars from the federal government over and over again, that they still, though many times, could never pass an audit, could never prove where those dollars went. Their communities were the most victimized in my state. In fact, at one point when I was serving in Congress, out of the top 11 poorest counties in the nation, I had 5 of them, and they were all on our tribal areas. People, 80 to 90% unemployment, 90% alcoholism, only 15 to 20% of their kids were graduating from high school, just no hope and desperation. And you see criminals come into this area and embed and instill fear and take over a whole community, where I as a state didn't have any jurisdiction to go in to enforce public safety. I as a governor, because they're a sovereign nation, didn't have the opportunity to go in there and help protect their communities. Their tribal government had to do it. And many times their tribal council or their chairman weren't bold enough to fight the cartels or the affiliates that were there or the criminals and the professionals that were in there threatening their lives. Dave Flute was always tough and strong. He would come and talk to me and tell the truth about the criminals that were there, what he needed for help. In fact, I remember many of them would come in with a list of 10 things that I could do. Dave would come in and he would say, I just need a jail. I just need a jail. I will arrest the criminals and I will put them in jail and I will keep my people safe. That's what I need. And I thought, wow, this guy totally understands what it means to be a leader and to come into an area and be responsible for his people. I made him my tribal affairs secretary in my cabinet when I was governor. And he faced great persecution for that because I was a law and order governor and I was calling out the cartels and their activity. They were coming and bringing drugs and trafficking drugs across the southern border and coming and using it and distributing it through tribal areas because the Biden administration wouldn't go in there and enforce federal law at all. The Biden administration would allow them free reign, and they had this safe haven in the middle of the country to do human trafficking and drug trafficking. And I called them out, and with Dave being my tribal affairs secretary, faced a lot of persecution for that, but he stood strong and he said, she's telling the truth, and we need to address this and stop this facilitation of what is happening with these dangerous people in our country. I will tell you that I asked Dave to come to Homeland Security because of his passion. The man served our country, served in the military, deployed to the Middle East at a time of war, fought for our country, and said that he wants to spend every day of his life making sure that America stays as safe and as great as it always has been. And we're just so blessed to have him here. Homeland Security doesn't often have someone who understands Indian country and how they need security, and they deserve security too. Their children deserve hope in their homeland and on their tribal lands. And Dave is the one who's going to help us build that partnership with other agencies and with tribes to ensure that they have every opportunity that every other person in this country does as well.
Thank you, Secretary. Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Flute. Thank you for your service. We have both been to war, and we didn't go to fight for this country to come back here and allow terrorists through our borders. I appreciate your partnership here. Someone else who understands the need to fight for safety and security and put their own life on the line is my friend, President of Police Officers Association of Michigan, Jim Tignelli. Jim, yes, please. Jim is a consummate professional. He's a law enforcement officer through and through, and he does so because he is exceedingly compassionate. He loves his community. He loves his law enforcement officers. And he has put his life on the line to protect those who protect us. So Jim, thank you for being here today. And what are some things that we can learn? What are some things that we can glean? And how can we better cooperate with our law enforcement officers to keep our streets safe?
Very kind to you, Congressman and Madam Secretary. Thank you for having me here today. I go off track just for a second to let you know that one of the unintended consequences putting this group together is that I met Dave.
Yeah.
And turns out we actually have a common thing that we are working on that we would never have known had we not met upstairs here. And we've got a plan. So all of a sudden, that may be good for all the Indian tribes for something that we're working on here in Michigan. So I don't know, we're going to see. But wouldn't have happened otherwise. And the other thing I guess I'd have to tell you is that when you talk about the big, beautiful bill, don't look towards Michigan because you're going to get no help here.
That's true.
Okay. Well, the best I can do for you is say we've endorsed Mike Rogers for Senate for next year, and we'll see what we can do. But I don't think there's a hammer big enough in my toolbox to get either of the two that are there now to vote yes. So, sorry about that. As Congressman said, I've been president of the Police Officers Association for about 30 years. We represent about 14,000 law enforcement personnel in both peninsulas. So we touch all four corners and all parts in between. It's about 20% fewer police officers than there were in 2001, oddly enough. The academies are mostly empty, but we're working at it. And really and truly, this president makes things happen that he probably doesn't even realize. And some of it is pride in this job, pride in the jobs that we have, the people that we represent. And we start hearing better things from academies. And I think a lot of it is because he gives a lot of people hope that we didn't have in the last 4 years.
I absolutely think he does. You know, our recruitment has been doing much better the last several months just because I think of his leadership, and we're in charge of all the federal law enforcement training under Homeland Security, and we are seeing enrollments come back now and people being willing to sign up and serve again.
I see that, and it's encouraging, and I sense it here in Michigan as well.
I hope so.
And that's something we haven't seen in probably 10, 15 years, but certainly the last 4 years, everybody just left, they fled the job. But I noticed this morning that the assault on ICE officers went up 500%. And if anybody can think about 500%, and you realize what a huge number that is. But let me put it in perspective for you. In the United States, the police officers, since 2023, the physical assaults on police officers has gone up from 25,000 to 77,000 police officers physically assaulted. Now, that's about 300%, using a little then-behind math there. That's something that I think goes unnoticed. And I want to tell you, most of the guys that do this job don't come in and tell you they got punched in the nose. Because they're embarrassed, they're angry, they don't want anybody to know. So if that 77,000 sounds like a lot, it's probably not. But those are physical assaults too. Those aren't this, pushing and shoving stuff. And I believe much of this can be attributed back to the open border that we suffered through for the last 4 years. All of that talk about, well, if Congress would just give me the power, how that happened. One of the great lines and I love President Trump, and he knows it. One of the great lines was, all we needed was a different president. I think that was the word that he used, and I thought, son of a... I don't think Congress had I don't think a lot of the Congress had much to do with that. But, with 10 million people coming in over those 4 years, and that's probably half of what really happened, and there's no consequences to it. You're given a traffic ticket, somebody might have got here today for parking or for 5 over the speed limit, and a promise to show up someday, but we don't know where you're going to be or how we're going to find you, and then we battle you as we do it. What I saw there with the no consequence, and this is not a scientific poll, this is a Jim Tiganelli poll, which is probably as scientific as you could ever ask for. What we discovered here was that if the consequence of breaking the law coming into this country means getting a bus ticket or a plane ride, a debit card and a cell phone, if that's the bad things that happen to you, what I think happened, and why I think a lot of those assaults are up, is because our homegrown criminals said, it's worth it. The old days of us turning the lights on or saying, stop, hold on, police, vaporized. Now when they see the lights or they hear that command, they run or they assault or they flee the scene. And that's over with here now. And like I said, that's going to be a slow process to cure because you're building a generation of them. Last year in Michigan, we had 3 police officers shot and killed while they were working. And none of them were in a gunfight. I don't know if anybody realizes that. You say, well, nobody here is going to say out loud, well, it's part of the job. It's not. Nobody goes to work to get killed. But what happened is One of them was on a traffic stop. One was helping a homeless guy in a busy city. And one of them was tailing a stolen car. None of these guys got a shot off. These were guys that were ambushed and murdered in this state. And that's because there was no consequences anymore. It's become part of the challenge now to convince them that it's bad to do bad things. It's going to be a slow process, but we're up for it. We're good at it. We're going to be fine. Fentanyl, we spoke about that. Sheriff, it's a huge number over there. Myself, I've thought about in Livonia, which is one of America's safest cities. They got 2 kilos of fentanyl on a traffic stop last year. And when they broke that down for me, what they basically said was that would be enough to kill every resident of the state of Michigan. I mean, think about that. That was in the back seat of somebody's car. We had a Detroit police officer that was overcome by fentanyl holding a driver's license that he got from a driver because that license had been in the fentanyl. They had to revive him on the street. The southern border, we heard a little bit about it earlier, and I know with Dave here. The northern border is about 3 times the length of the southern border. And what's happened is people think that because Michigan is surrounded by the Great Lakes, which they are, that the border's in the middle of the water. And so that means nobody can walk across Lake Erie, nobody can walk across Lake Huron. But the fact is they've been crossing that river or that lake illegally since the Prohibition era. Canada lets everybody in, and it's just across. We're the only part of the border that's north of Canada, right here. Okay. And our members supported President Trump. We endorsed you and encouraged them to have you as Secretary of Homeland Security. I cannot believe I've seen so much out of you in 4 months, and all I ever saw in the last 4 years was somebody sitting in front of Congress saying the border is secure, the border is secure. And while that we were showing it, we couldn't see the earth because of all the bodies that were walking across the street. I encourage you to engage our 83 county sheriffs, our police officers, public and police and townships and cities, because we all want to help. We don't have anybody here trying to stop the ICE guys. We're ready to help.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for your leadership. You've been fantastic. It meant the world to me to have your endorsement when I got nominated for this position by President Trump, because you're going through the confirmation process and you want people to consider you as someone who would be able to come in and to do the job and to do the job well and to have the support of an organization that you represent, and you yourself meant the world to me, and gives you the strength to go through a process like that, to sit in front of Congress and say, here's my life, here's who I am, I just want to serve and I want to make this country safe again, and do what President Trump was asked to do by the American people. What do law enforcement officers feel that they need the most right now, that they are lacking, as far as, I've seen in the Department of Homeland Security, so I have ICE, and then I also have Border Patrol, USCIS, which does all visas and worker programs, things like that, citizenship papers, all of that. I have weapons of mass destruction under the Department of Homeland Security. I have CISA, which is the cybersecurity agency of the nation. So anything that is said or done or sold on the internet, I'm responsible for. All of our ports of entry and the borders across it. We have FEMA as well. So all disasters go through the Department of Homeland Security, but most people don't know that DHS also and FEMA have the responsibility for the continuation of government. That should something terrible happen to this country, it is FEMA who runs this country. If we have the unprecedented situation happen, TSA is under my jurisdiction, so we have implemented some security concerns that people had talked about Real ID, which was many states are giving out driver's licenses to anybody that shows up. I don't know if your state is one of them, didn't have to prove citizenship in this country in order to get a driver's license. And in Michigan, did you just need a driver's license to go vote? I'm guessing that's one of the things that Real ID was a law that was passed over 20 years ago that we finally implemented, because it just says that you have to prove your legal status if you're going to get on an airplane, if you're going to be on public transportation. And so making sure that we're also fixing a lot in TSA that will be good, that I think people will be helpful for, that we'll be making more announcements on. And then Secret Service and FLETC are both under the Department of Homeland Security. So training our law enforcement officers and then partnering with other departments that train tribal are important. But for me, every day, I've seen ICE recruitment go up, Border Patrol recruitment has gone up, Secret Service recruitment has gone up over 200%. record enrollment in Coast Guard, which I'm responsible for as well. What I'm seeing is that when you let people do their jobs for what they were called to do, and you support them and give them the training and the equipment that they need to do their jobs, that they feel fulfilled, that they're doing what they need. But every day, President Trump calls and talks to me and says, "What do you need, Kristi? What do you need?" This is clearly his priority. And I don't ever want to go to him and say, "I don't know," or that I don't know exactly what it is. What you hear from your law enforcement officers, what is the thing that they need the most that we could give them at this point? And some of these law enforcement officers are serving in sanctuary cities and jurisdictions where they're, politicians don't have their backs. And I think that's discouraging, but you let me know.
I think that just to take that to the extreme, we just need support from the top. That's the main thing. And when you have somebody like the mayor in L.A. that's at the top, that's a little tough to go to work. But recruiting and retaining police officers is the big difficult thing right now, because we recruit teenagers. We can't hire teenagers, but you have to convince a young person that this is the job they want before they're old enough to recruit them.
That's right.
It's a cultural thing. It's not the normal thing. And since we have no retirement health care, I said my next mission in Congress is to get TRICARE, the military health care for our guys when they retire, because they retire at 55 years of age and they have no health care. They have to go get a job.
Really?
So you want 65-year-old police guys driving around, or you want health care? Yeah. But that's the biggest thing. When I hear President Trump say that, and I hear it from you all the time, and I've always had it with Congressman James, who I consider to be a dear friend, that means a lot. That means a lot to the guys that's in the suit. We have such a respect for him, and that just bleeds off. When we hear that to us, it's like, hey, we did the right thing. And then when we say that to the young people around us, that's the next recruit.
I think you'll never convince somebody to sign up for a profession. I've said this about the military. You can't recruit people and kids to sign up for the military unless you show them that you respect the veterans that already served, unless you show that you respect that. And we need to do that with law enforcement officers.
Could I ask the Congressman just a real quick question? Because we had a conversation a couple years ago where I said, the old Uncle Joe that used to talk to you about being a policeman now says you're crazy. And I said to him, what about the military? He says, I feel the same way about the military. I always wanted somebody to do that. But right now, at that time, it was no. Has that changed?
No, typically people are acquainted with law enforcement. They're acquainted with fighting for their country in the military because they hear of their stories from mentors, their fathers, their uncles, and the same in law enforcement. It used to be a trade that people aspired to because you saw your Uncle Joey come back and you saw your dad come back, and it was respected. And so even though the riots from a few years ago when the cops were being assaulted, even though the Democrats are distancing themselves from defund the police the best they can, disrespect of the police is having tangible negative effect on our law enforcement officers. But President Trump's leadership is changing the tide. And one of the big steps we can take is through this one big, beautiful bill. We are actually putting an additional $60 billion to Customs and Border Patrol, and $2.5 billion of that is going back to local law enforcement. So we can train, so we can get the equipment, and so we can show the respect that our law enforcement officers so badly deserve.
Well, and the one thing that's true. One thing I've asked my team to do is to tell police officer stories. Because if you don't have a police officer in your family, or if you're, in high school trying to figure out what you want to do when you grow up, and you hear the story of someone why they decided to become a law enforcement officer, why they decided that they served so many years, the commitment that they had might inspire them to look at something that they didn't before. So we're going to start a media campaign telling the stories, letting them tell their stories to inspire our youth, to look back at the profession, respect it, and inspire them to join and to be a part of keeping the country safe. I think it's incredibly, we did that with veterans, and we've seen this veterans nationwide that recorded their stories for historical reasons, but also so we would remember and recruit individuals to the military. We need to do that with law enforcement as well.
Good idea.
Well, thank you, Madam Secretary. Let's please give our panelists a round of applause. We have a remarkable opportunity here today with President Trump's leadership, Secretary Noem's leadership, their transparency, their compassion. They understand there's nothing compassionate about open borders. There's nothing compassionate about human and drug traffickers killing Americans. And there's certainly nothing compassionate with a laissez-faire approach from our very dear and close friends in Canada. President Trump is using every lever at his disposal to keep you safe. And we are up here to say that he is absolutely on the right direction, tying USMCA negotiations, our trade negotiations, with our security. Illicit trade distorts markets, undermines fair competition, erodes public revenues, diminishes the benefits of legitimate traders that we're meant to enjoy under free trade, and hurts our economy as well as our national security. I appreciate the leadership role that you're taking here, and it's an honor. You mentioned something that's very near and dear to my heart, and I saw my friend Tudor over here smiling when you mentioned real IDs and shady elections. Don't get us started on 2020. But you have my word that Michigan will not be a sanctuary state if I have anything to say about it. We will continue to partner with President Trump to secure our border and to make our nation safe. So, Madam Secretary, in the time that we have remaining, the floor is yours.
You know, sometimes I get tired of talking. I want to see if anybody out there has a question. Anybody? I know I'm not supposed to take questions from the crowd, but I'm going to do it anyways because I always break the rules. Yes, sir, stand up quick and ask your question.
My first question is, Chinese buying our real estate farmland? Second question is, just a few weeks ago or less, there was a fungus that was confiscated here in Detroit. If that fungus is bad enough to kill our crops, it'll make fentanyl like child's play.
That's exactly right.
What steps have